I'm Judy Dobson, the Comptroller for the Diocese. Tonight, I'm going to tell you the story of the 2021 Diocesan Finances. You probably have been focusing on the 2022 budget, watching and listening to the budget presentation and asking excellent questions during your convocation meeting. Passing a sound and balanced budget is an essential duty for a delegate. However, we'd be amiss if we did not share the story of the 2021 finances. The good news is revenues came in higher than expenses in 2021. Parishes gave almost $58,000 more in pledges than what was budgeted. Thank you. I would also like to thank St. Michael's Episcopal Church, Bon Air, for their donations of over $106,000 to the diocese and $10,000 to Chenko and James. Thank you, Reverend Gotzi, and the rest of the vestry for your leadership. We also received a $40,000 grant from the Episcopal Church to support our operations. The other good news is that our endowment funds held in the Southern Virginia Diocesan Foundation's Composite Fund continue to see growth over the past year of over 18%. The diocese has over $19,550,000 in the fund. In addition to reporting on our cash and investment income, I am pleased to say that the diocese, as of December 29, 2001, now holds the deed to the Church of the Messiah. For those who don't know, the Church of the Messiah officially broke away from the teachings and beliefs of the Episcopal Church in 2006. After numerous attempts by the diocese to have the church property returned to the Episcopal Church, the diocese filed a lawsuit. In 2020, the court ruled in favor of the diocese and ordered the property returned. The property is now listed on our financial statements with an assessed value of $2,145,100. Now that we reviewed the revenue side, let's look at the expense side. This pie chart represents the total amount of our expenses spent on various programs and support services. In 2021, expenses were a little more than $2.4 million. The Office of the Episcopate, in dark blue, is the largest expense category. These expenses include compensation and benefits of the bishop, canon to the ordinary, finance and administrative support staff, and other costs such as office, vehicle, audit, legal, and property expenses. As you probably heard in the budget presentation, we are moving to a smaller office. This will cut our rent expenses by 66% next year. Our new office is located approximately a mile from our current location. This means that we still are centrally located in the diocese with easy access from the interstate and plenty of parking spaces. Please visit us and see our new office this fall. Now let's take a closer look at the ministries within the diocese. This category, in light blue, makes up 32% of our expenses, or a little more than $785,700. This pie chart represents the total amount of expenses spent on ministries within our diocese. The largest category, mission and parish support, is found in blue in the upper right quadrant. As part of Bishop Haynes' 5 initiatives she introduced in her annual council speech last year, a canon, evangelist, and canon for diversity were added to the staff. The Reverend Canon Harlan is focused on supporting congregations and their leaders in building congregational vitality, sharing the good news of God's love in their communities, and helping each member deepen their spiritual life and discipleship. He is eager to visit your church on a Sunday to preach or teach, or any other time to meet with your leadership to explore ways to build up your communities of faith. The Reverend Canon Foster is focused on helping congregations understand that social diversity and social justice are two sides of the same coin. They cannot be separated, and both are needed to defeat the sins of inequity, oppression, and social injustice. Reverend Canon Foster will lead the hard conversations that will help the reconstruction of diocesan institutions and policies based on biblical principles of unity, love, and justice. The second largest category of ministries within our diocese is expenses associated with our camp and retreat center, Chanco on the James. The diocese provided $140,000 to support its operations and provide over $35,000 in donated services. In 2021, the Diocesan Executive Board pledged another $300,000 toward Chanco's capital campaign. $100,000 was pledged each year beginning this year. Christian formation and outreach ministries are tied for our third largest ministries. Canon Farland's compensation is included in Christian formation category as she oversees Christian formation for the diocese. As many of you may have heard in the budget presentation, the diocese is investing $75,000 into a new leadership training program. It is called the Diocesan Congregational Development Institute, or DCDI, which focuses on developing the spiritual community and organizational life of congregations. This is part of the Bishop's 5 initiatives. This training program began in the fall of 2021 with a small group of people and continues into 2022 when the bulk of the money is spent. Outreach funds supported the Boys' Home, the Jacksonfield Homes, the Historic Christ Church, the Addiction and Recovery Ministry, the Prison Ministry, the Mission of the Holy Spirit, the Westminster Canterbury Foundation, the Bishop Vacher Scholarship Fund, and poverty relief programs. Youth Ministries is represented on the pie chart in yellow, and College and Young Adult Ministries is represented in gray. Megan Dern, our youth missioner, is at the helm of both ministries. Megan is looking forward to 2022 when she hopes to return to hosting in-person events such as EYC and Happening. On the pie chart in orange, clergy, seminarian, and aspirants are supported with educational scholarships and programs. The clergy enjoyed their first in-person clergy conference event since the fall of 2019. Father Mario Melendez continues his ministry work as a Latino missioner. This past year, Father Mario hosted an event called Faith and Justice that responded to questions about the latest efforts to improve living and working conditions for migrants and farm workers. Now, let's take a deeper look at our overall expenses in 2021. Partnerships and contributions, seen on the pie chart in yellow, make up our third largest expense category in 2021. As we ask for your church to pledge to the diocese, well, the Episcopal Church asks the diocese to pledge to them. Our pledge to the Episcopal Church in 2021 was a little over $266,000 and was based upon 15% of the 2019 total adjusted operating income. Other expenses in this category are the bishop's discretionary expenses and support for ecumenical groups. The communications expenses, seen in gray on the pie chart, came in slightly under budget. Ben Ucritti is our new communications specialist. His job is to develop our virtual space and build community and communication throughout our churches in the diocese and beyond. Governance is our smallest expense category. Most of the expenses in this category provide reserve funds for the Bishop's Search and Transition, General Convention, and the Lambeth Conference. Without funds in reserve, balancing a budget in those years when these events occur would be difficult, if not impossible, without making significant sacrifices. General Convention and the Lambeth Conference are taking place this year, and some of those funds placed in reserve in previous years will be used. So Given all the activity during the year with revenues coming in and expenses going out, what does our balance sheet look like at the end of 2021? Here is our statement of financial position, or the balance sheet for those who work in the for-profit corporate world. Our assets are a little more than $26,337,000. Assets consist of cash, investments, loans, and property. As you can see, most of our assets are invested. Of our investments in cash, a little more than $14,600,000 is restricted. Approximately $6,140,000 has been designated by the Executive Board, and a little more than $5,242,000 is unrestricted. Most of our liabilities, $300,000 to be exact, record our Chanco pledge that we will pay over the next 3 years. And $32,200 is deferred revenue that will be recorded as revenue in 2022. This sums up the statement of financial position. To sum up the story of the 2021 Diocesan Finances is that we lived within our budget and we have a financially healthy diocese with liquidity going into 2022. Now let's move on to the 2022 budget. The first line under revenues is unrestricted contributions. Annual pledges are included in this budget line. Annual church pledges are budgeted higher this year to reflect what is anticipated. The other revenue budget line decreased by about $45,000. Earlier, I told you about the $40,000 grant the diocese received from the Episcopal Church. We do not expect to have this grant available this year. That is why this line decreased. The designated and restricted funds budget line is significantly higher in 2022. As you recall from our budget presentation, we are drawing more than our 5% endowment spending policy to cover our expenses. This is similar to our experiences with our own personal finances when we sometimes need to withdraw money from savings for essential spending. Mission and parish support line increased because we will have the entire year's salaries of the Canon for Diversity and the Canon for Evangelism. Camp Ministries has a $100,000 increase from the 2021 budget. As you will remember from our camp discussion, we will be paying $100,000 of our $300,000 pledge this year. The Christian formation budget line increased to pay for DCDI, the leadership training program I spoke about earlier. The governance budget line increased because General Convention, held every 3 years, and Lambeth Conference, held every 10 years, will occur this year. Most of the money to pay for these expenses will come from designated reserve funds. The Office of the Episcopate, the last line above total expenses, decreased by about $145,000 compared to the 2021 budget because the Canon for Administration is retiring and will not be replaced. This sums up the 2022 budget. Are there any questions?